My girlfriend looked me in the eye and said, "From now on, I'll be the one to decide when we see each other. Stop pushing me." I didn't protest, just nodded quietly. 2 weeks later, there she was at my door, tears streaming down her face, holding something I never imagined I'd see in her hands. My fiancée Emily said she needed space. She said she felt suffocated. She told me this while standing in the empty living room of the house we had just bought. This was 2 days after I transferred my entire savings, $30,000 for the down payment. I didn't argue, I didn't yell, I just looked at the fresh paint on the walls. I said, "Okay, you take the space you need." 3 weeks later, she was back at that same front door. She was crying, and in her hand, she was holding a pregnancy test. I'm Ryan. I'm 32. I'm a structural engineer. My entire job is about building things that last. Foundations, support systems, things you can rely on. I thought our relationship was the same. We'd been together for 3 years. It was solid, stable, predictable. I liked that. The house was the next logical step. Our future plan. We found a place in the suburbs. It needed some work, but it was ours. The total down payment was $45,000. I put in $30,000. Emily put in $15,000. We signed the mortgage papers together. Then things changed. It started small. So small you tell yourself you're crazy? Late nights at the office, urgent projects that popped up every weekend, the way she'd angle her phone screen away from me whenever I walked into the room. She stopped talking about paint colors for the nursery, and she started talking a lot about a new senior colleague named Mark. I finally asked her about it. We were unpacking boxes in the kitchen. I said, "Hey, you've seemed really distant lately. Is everything okay?" Her reaction was instant and cold. "Honestly, Ryan," she said, "you're always just here. You're always asking if I'm okay. You're always checking in." She sighed like my concern was a heavy weight. "It's suffocating. I feel like I can't breathe." Suffocating. I'm standing in a house I'm paying 70% of the mortgage for. A house she wanted. I'm the one scheduling inspectors. I'm the one handling the loan documents. I'm being stable, but my stability was her suffocation. It's a special kind of cruelty, making you feel guilty for the very stability they asked for. It's a classic manipulation tactic, gaslighting. They don't just betray you, they need you to believe that you deserve it. It makes their betrayal feel justified. It makes their exit feel like your fault. And this led to her ultimatum. She said, "I think I'm going to stay at a friend's place for a few days. I just need space. I'll reach out when I'm ready." So I looked at her, standing there with her bag packed, giving me this ultimatum. "I'll reach out when I'm ready." I just nodded. I said, "Okay." I didn't beg. I didn't ask her to reconsider. I didn't remind her about the $30,000. I didn't list all the things I was doing for us. I gave her exactly what she said she wanted. She walked out the door, and I locked it behind her. The first week was hell. The silence in that empty house was deafening. Every floorboard creak, every echo from the empty rooms felt like an insult. I kept staring at the stacks of boxes. Boxes labeled kitchen, ours. Living room, ours. I didn't touch them. I just sat on the floor and drank coffee. But then around day 10, something changed. The anxiety started to fade. The fog in my head cleared, and it was replaced by something else. Clarity. I stopped waiting for my phone to buzz. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. I stopped being a victim, and I started being productive. I stopped looking at the boxes labeled ours. I started organizing the files labeled mine. I'm a structural engineer. My entire life is about solving problems. This was just a very complicated structural problem. So I started breaking it down. I made a spreadsheet of our shared assets, the house, the joint account we'd opened for the utility bills. I called my lawyer. I was calm, methodical. I said, "Hey, I have a hypothetical question. If two unmarried people buy a house and one person contributed 70% of the down payment, what are the options for dissolving that partnership?" He gave me a few answers. It was complicated, but not impossible. I hung up. I felt better. I felt in control. I went to the gym. I called my buddy, the one I'd been canceling on for weeks because Emily didn't like him. We went out for a beer. I slept through the entire night for the first time in months. I was taking back my own space. Then on day 14, my phone buzzed. A text from Emily. It just said, "Miss you." I stared at that message for a long time. This was the test, the trial balloon, seeing if I'd come crawling back. I waited an hour. Then I texted back, "Miss you too." And that was it. I didn't ask when she was coming home. I didn't ask if she was ready to talk. I didn't ask anything. I just put the phone down and went back to organizing my spreadsheets. The power had shifted. She gave up her control the moment she walked out that door. Now, I was the one waiting. I knew she'd have to make the next move. I just didn't know it would be this desperate. Day 21, 3 full weeks after Emily walked out asking for space, my phone rang, 11:37 p.m. on a Thursday. Her name flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. Part of me, the part that was finally starting to feel free, wanted to let it go to voicemail. But curiosity, maybe a lingering sense of obligation, won out. I picked up, "Hello, Ryan." Her voice was thick with tears. Panicked. "Ryan, can I come over? Please, I need to talk to you. Right now, it's important." Every rational thought in my head screamed, "No, hold your ground, make her wait, let her feel what it's like to be on the receiving end of silence." But there was something raw in her voice, something desperate. Against my better judgment, I said, "Okay, come over." She showed up 20 minutes later. I know, because I watched the clock, stood there in the empty living room staring at the microwave display, each second ticking by like a tiny hammer blow against my resolve. What could possibly be this urgent? When I opened the door, it was exactly like the image that had been haunting me since that first night she left. Only worse. Mascara tracked black lines down her pale face. Her eyes were red, puffy. She looked broken. And in her hands, she was holding a pregnancy test. The little window showed a clear, undeniable positive sign. My stomach plummeted. "Is that?" I couldn't finish the sentence. "I'm pregnant," she sobbed, collapsing onto the new sofa. The one I'd had delivered just last week, thinking maybe, just maybe, we could still make this house a home. She held the test out like it was Exhibit A in a trial. I took 3. They're all positive. I stood there, frozen, processing. My mind, the engineer's mind, started running calculations, timelines, probabilities. We'd always been careful. Always. She was on birth control. We used protection most of the time. How, when I asked my voice flat, trying to keep the emotion out, I stepped aside, let her fully into the house she'd abandoned. This morning, she choked out between sobs. I've been feeling weird for like a week. Nauseous. Tired all the time. Emotional. I thought it was stress. From work? From us? She looked around the empty room, her gaze landing on the unpacked boxes. But then I realized I was late. Really late. So I bought tests on my lunch break, and yeah. She buried her face in her hands. I sat down in the armchair opposite her, deliberately leaving space between us. The space she wanted. "Okay," I said, keeping my voice steady, trying to project calm, trying to think logically. "Okay, so what do you want to do?" She looked up at me, then her eyes wide with terror. Genuine terror. "I don't know, Ryan. I don't know. I wasn't ready for this. We weren't ready for this." "No," I agreed quietly. "We weren't." Silence filled the room. Heavy. Suffocating. There was that word again. But this time, it felt accurate. Then, she dropped the real bomb. She wouldn't look at me. Just stared down at the plastic test stick in her trembling hands. She whispered, "Ryan, there's something else." Another wave of dread washed over me. I don't know if it's yours." The air left the room. It was so quiet I could hear the hum of the new refrigerator in the kitchen. "What did you say?" "I've been seeing someone else," she whispered, the words tumbling out. "It's Mark. From work." "I'm so sorry, Ryan. It just..." How long my voice was steady, cold. All the panic was gone, replaced by a sudden, sharp focus. She flinched. "About 2 months. 2 months." The math clicked into place in my engineer's brain. 2 months. Right when we started the mortgage application. Right before she started canceling plans. Right before I was suffocating her. She wasn't looking for space, she was just operating a backup plan. And I was plan B. She started to spiral, the excuses pouring out. "It just happened. You were always so focused on this house, on the numbers, on the logistics. You were never present." She said, "Mark, he listened to me. He was easy to be around. He didn't pressure me." Then she crawled across the sofa. She tried to take my hand. "But I love you, Ryan. I really do. I want it to be yours. Please, I want it to be yours. If it's yours, we can fix this. We can still be a family. In this house, we can make it work." And that's when I saw the whole chessboard. My mind went to the $30,000, to the 3 years of my life, to the empty rooms I was supposed to build our future in. People talk about the sunk cost fallacy. It's the idea that you should stay in a burning building just because you paid the rent. That you should keep pouring good money after bad just because you've already lost so much. You stay with the wrong person because you've already given them 3 years. You pour money into the failing project because you've already invested a fortune. I looked at her crying on the sofa we'd chosen together. I had $30,000 and 3 years on the table. And in that second, I realized I wasn't losing an investment. I was escaping a debt. I stood up. She stopped talking. No. She looked confused. No. What? No. What? No. We are not fixing this. I said, you will not use this house as a hostage, and you will not use that baby as leverage. I pointed to the door. I am not your backup plan. I am not your safety net. I am done. She just stared at me, shocked, like she couldn't believe this was happening. But what am I supposed to do, Ryan? Where am I supposed to go? I walked over to the door and opened it. You should probably tell Mark. And then you should call your lawyer. Because first thing in the morning, I'm calling mine. Get out. The air left the room. It was so quiet, I could hear the hum of the new refrigerator in the kitchen. My voice was flat. What did you say? I've been seeing someone else, she whispered the words, tumbling out. It's Mark, from work. I'm so sorry, Ryan. It just happened. How long? My voice was steady, cold. All the panic, all the sadness, it just evaporated. It was replaced by a sudden, sharp focus. She flinched. About 2 months. 2 months. The math clicked into place in my engineer's brain. 2 months. Right when we were getting the mortgage application approved. Right before she started canceling our plans. Right before I suddenly became suffocating. She wasn't looking for space. She was just juggling her options. She was operating a backup plan. And I was it. She saw the look on my face and started to spiral the excuses pouring out. It wasn't serious. You were always so focused on this house, on the numbers, on the logistics. You were never present, she said. Mark, he listened to me. He was easy to be around. He didn't pressure me. Then she crawled across the sofa. She tried to take my hand. Her tears were flowing again. But I love you, Ryan. I really do. I want it to be yours. Please, I want it to be yours. If it's yours, we can fix this. We can still be a family in this house. We can make it work. I know we can. And that's when I saw the whole chessboard. I saw the last 3 years. I saw the $30,000. I saw the empty rooms I was supposed to build our future in. People talk about the sunk cost fallacy. It's the idea that you should stay in a burning building just because you paid the rent. The logic that you should keep pouring good money after bad just because you've already lost so much. You stay with the wrong person because you've already given them 3 years of your life. You pour more money into the failing project because you've already invested a fortune. I looked at her crying on the sofa we'd chosen together. I had $30,000 and 3 years on the table. And in that single clear second, I realized I wasn't losing an investment. I was escaping a debt. I stood up. She stopped talking, her sentence cut in half. The only sound was her sniffling. No. She looked confused. No. What? No. What? No. We are not fixing this. My voice was as cold and hard as steel. You will not use this house as a hostage. And you will not use that baby as leverage. I pointed to the door. I am not your backup plan. I am not your safety net. I am done. She just stared at me. Her expression shifted from desperation to pure shock. Like she couldn't believe this was happening. Like this wasn't in her script. But what am I supposed to do, Ryan? Where am I supposed to go? I walked over to the front door and I opened it. You should probably tell Mark. And then you should call your lawyer. Because first thing in the morning, I'm calling mine. Get out. She left. I closed the door. I didn't sleep. I just sat in the empty living room and replayed the night over and over. The next day, my phone rang, an unknown number. I answered, hello, is this Ryan? Yeah. Who's this? It's Mark. Mark from Emily's office. I almost laughed. The audacity. I said, you've got a lot of nerve calling me. Look, man, he sounded awful, panicked. I needed to talk to you. Emily showed up at my place last night with the test. I just stayed silent. I let him talk. She told me it might be mine, he said, his voice cracking. And I told her, I'm not ready to be a father. I'm not ready for any of this. I felt a strange, cold pity for him. He was just another pawn. So what do you want from me, Mark? He hesitated. I need to know what you're doing. Are you getting back with her? No. He actually sounded relieved. Oh, good. Because what? Look, I'm not a good guy here, he said, but I swear I didn't know the whole story. Emily told me you two were basically broken up. I waited. She told me you were an obsessed ex-boyfriend who had co-signed on the house and just wouldn't let her go. She said you were emotionally unstable and that you were suffocating her. There it was, that word again. So to him, I was the villain. I was the obstacle. It was validating. In the worst possible way, It confirmed she wasn't just confused. She was a systematic, calculating liar. She had built an entire false narrative to justify her affair. I said, "Well, you got played, man." "We both did." "Yeah," he said quietly. "Yeah, I see that now. What happens next?" "We get a paternity test." I said, "My voice, all business. A legal one. Until then, you and I have nothing more to talk about." I hung up. The next 3 weeks were a blur of lawyers. My lawyer drew up the paperwork. We got the prenatal paternity test scheduled. It was all very clean, very procedural, no emotion, just logistics. Then the email came. I was at my desk at work, staring at structural diagrams. My phone buzzed. It was the lab report. I opened the PDF. I scrolled past all the medical jargon, all the percentages down to the one line that mattered. Probability of paternity 0.00%. The baby was not mine. I read the line 5 times. It wasn't joy I felt. It wasn't even sadness. It was relief. Like a multi-thousand-pound weight I didn't even know I was carrying had just been lifted off my chest. I forwarded the email to my lawyer, then I forwarded it to Emily. I texted her, "I have the results. The baby is not mine. All future communication will be through my lawyer." She replied almost instantly, "Ryan, please, can we talk just once, please?" I typed no. Then I deleted it. I didn't type anything. I just blocked her number, blocked her on every social media platform. Done. My lawyer, following my exact instructions, sent Emily's lawyer an offer. It was very simple, poetic in its own way. She had 2 options. Option 1, she could buy me out. Pay me back my $30,000 plus my share of the mortgage payments I'd made and take over the loan entirely. Option 2, I would buy her out. I'd give her back her $15,000 and she would sign a quitclaim deed, removing her name from the house and any and all liability for it. She had 72 hours to decide. I got the answer in 24. She took the $15,000. Of course she did. She didn't have the $30,000. She didn't have a job anymore. Oh, that's the final piece of karma. Mark, it turns out, wasn't just a senior colleague. He was a senior colleague who was married. His wife found out about the affair and the pregnancy around the same time I did. He didn't just tell Emily he wasn't ready to be a father, he fired her to try and save his own marriage. So in the span of a month, Emily lost her fiance, her affair partner, her job, and the house she had tried to leverage as a safety net. She took the $15,000 and, from what I heard, moved back in with her parents. I'm still in the house, it's quiet. I'm finally slowly starting to unpack the boxes. I'm painting the walls a color I like. I'm building a new foundation. This time, it's one I know I can trust. Someone asked me recently if I regret how I handled it. If I regret giving her space instead of fighting for her. My answer is no. I gave her exactly what she asked for. I gave her the rope, and she built her own gallows. I learned something from all this. When someone complains that your stability is suffocating them, what they're really trying to say is that your loyalty is inconvenient for them. The truth is, she didn't come to me first that night because she loved me. She came to me first because she thought I was the safer bet, the stable engineer, the guy with the house. I was her backup plan, and I will never be anyone's backup plan again. Have you ever realized you were just someone's backup plan? Let me know your story in the comments. Follow Project Checkmate for more strategies to reclaim your power.